Tonight, a major test for the Carney government, the Prime Minister's first budget.
So we're going to make generational investments that will build our country.
Big spending and deep cuts. What CBC News has learned is in the budget and the politics behind getting it passed. Held at gunpoint and beaten. New details about the kidnapping of the self-proclaimed Crypto King.
Please, I'm begging you, please, no, son, I'm begging.
Including video from the night he disappeared. And Jean Chrétien speaks out.
Do you think Donald Trump is a threat to democracy?
He is.
From Trump to trade and Alberta separatism.
They never sold as much oil as they do today. And they're complaining as if they were bankrupt. Come on.
A frank and personal interview with Canada's former Prime Minister.
From CBC News, this is The National with Chief Correspondent Adrian Arsenault.
Thanks for joining us. In less than 24 hours, Canadians will finally get a good look at Mark Carney's financial plan for the country. His government will lay out its first federal budget, and tonight, some new details are trickling out. The Liberals have been signaling big spending and big savings to come. Exactly how they'll make those work together is yet to be seen. The Finance Minister promising this budget will have something for every Canadian. But we know that comes at a price. Ashley Burke walks us through the details. We're learning tonight about where some of the changes and cuts will be.
A new take on an old tradition. The finance minister helping make himself a pair of shoes for budget day.
This has been made in Canada by Canadians for Canadians.
François-Philippe Champagne preparing for a budget with billions of dollars in investment.
Et voilà.
Now CBC News has learned it will include tens of billions of dollars in cuts and savings too.
There will be no surprises. Canadians have asked us to build big, bold things. They expect us to do things differently.
A senior Canadian official says the government's scrapping a plan to plant 2 billion trees by 2031.
Excited about the budget?
The official also said there will be changes to the tax structure to make investments in Canada less risky and a change to a tax credit businesses can use to write off some costs. But it's unclear where exactly new revenue is coming from.
And in a trade war, just like hockey, we will win.
Carney campaigned on a plan to bring in $20 billion a year from retaliatory tariffs on U.S. goods.
We're going to put every dollar to protect our workers.
But CBC News has learned that before the government dropped most countermeasures, it collected just over $3 billion.
We do need to raise revenue, but there are less painful ways of doing it.
Wherever it comes from, the Liberals will need help from another party.
If it brings up the cost of living, just like every other Liberal budget, we will vote no.
The NDP isn't ruling out abstaining from the vote, which could get it passed.
If it's a budget that's good for working people, we'll support it. If it's not, we won't. So all options are on the table.
The government's plan will come with a cost. Economists have forecasted a substantial deficit that could be between $78 to $100 billion. Ashley Burke, CBC News, Ottawa.
So let's bring in David Cochrane now, host of Power and Politics. So David, potentially huge deficit and clearly some huge stakes.
Yeah, huge money, huge deficit. The real question, Adrian, is going to be what does that deficit buy? Does it unlock investment? Does it increase the flow of private sector capital into the economy? Does it boost the GDP? If it does those things, given the massive disruption coming from the United States, I think a lot of economists are going to look at this and say, yes, the number is large. It is eye-popping. But it just might be worth it if it unleashes more economic activity inside the country. But if it's just another big deficit number that fails to move the needle economically, then it's not only going to be a missed opportunity, it quite potentially pushes the balance sheet of the government into territory that becomes increasingly financially risky and potentially unsustainable. So it's a bit of an inflection point for the Canadian economy, and this budget is really going to have to meet that moment.
So, David, help me understand something. No opposition party is saying they will support this budget. So how likely is it that there will be an election soon?
It's possible, but I would say it is improbable. I think if you look at everything that is happening on the trade front and on the economic front, and you just look at where the political situation is, the Liberals are still in first place in most polling. Mark Carney still way ahead of everybody else as preferred choice for Prime Minister. It's maybe not the honeymoon you saw back after the April 28th election, but there's no clear sign of vulnerability and weakness for the Liberals right now. Pierre Poilievre, he's still got to have his leadership review in the new year. The NDP are in the middle of a leadership race and only have 7 seats. So there's a chance, but I don't think it's an enormous one, at least not at this point.
All right, we will see. David Cochrane, thank you.
Thank you.
Small business owners are just one group that will be looking closely at this budget as they deal with so much economic uncertainty. As Nisha Patel shows us, they're looking for more support as they deal with the impacts of those U.S. tariffs.
Steve Malia's telescope business has been hit hard by trade uncertainty, and he says it's time for Ottawa to step up.
We've seen the demand for our products drop, right? Primarily in the U.S., where our dealer network has stopped placing orders with us. This is probably our most popular scope right now.
He's already scrambled to secure new customers beyond the U.S. and find new supply chains as tariffs raise costs. But he needs the federal budget to take some of the pressure off, including for the smallest companies like his.
What I would like to see is programs in place for smaller businesses where you don't have to be making a certain amount of revenue every year.
The federal government has already announced a $5 billion fund to help companies tap different export markets and retrain workers, plus a $1 billion regional tariff response for small businesses, but only if they have more than 5 employees.
Incentivizing domestic investment is, should be top of mind.
Tariffs have hit the auto sector particularly hard, as well as steel, furniture manufacturing, and forestry.
Projects have been delayed or put on hold or sourced locally to our customer in the U.S. Because they just don't want to have to deal with the uncertainty.
Thank you. The wish list from the business community is wide-ranging, from passing the promised increase to the capital gains exemption limit to lowering the small business tax rate.
A lot of businesses have not had a regular month of sales in 5 years when you include the pandemic-related concerns that business owners have had. So a lot of them are hanging on by a thread right now.
That continuing uncertainty, especially tough for small businesses.
So it's like the big guys will be okay, but the little guy is going to get potentially stamped out.
So he hopes the federal budget provides more relief. Nisha Patel, CBC News, Bolton, Ontario.
And Chief Political Correspondent Rosemary Barton will have special coverage of the budget as it is presented beginning Tuesday at 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific. You can tune in for detailed analysis wherever you watch CBC News. Well, the federal government says automaker Stellantis needs to honor signed contracts after moving production of a Jeep from Ontario to Illinois.
We know that we are at a pivotal moment that we need to fight for every single job.
An official dispute process launched today will seek to recover some of the billions in taxpayer money promised to Stellantis. The industry minister said an alternative would be to make some other vehicle at the Brampton, Ontario plant.
We did have a conversation about the advertisements today.
And that's BC Premier David Eby saying his province won't be running anti-tariff ads in the U.S. as previously planned. This after a meeting with federal ministers to discuss support for BC's embattled softwood industry. Prime Minister Mark Carney has said he objected to similar ads from Ontario that clearly enraged U.S. President Donald Trump. Now to a very dramatic scene in Toronto. An arrest caught on video shows a police vehicle running over a suspect. That suspect receiving just minor injuries. Lisa Shing now with what appears to have happened in the video, which we should tell you is pretty shocking.
At first, the video seems to show Toronto police trying to make an arrest, officers using a taser on a suspect, but then it takes a jarring turn. It appears to show an officer getting out of the cruiser, perhaps forgetting to put it in park so that it rolled over the suspect. Then the officer rushing back in, seemingly hitting the gas instead of the brakes, hitting the woman and another officer.
See her running here?
This worker at one of the strip mall shops witnessed it all.
Because he's under control, not control for his vehicle, He's coming outside the vehicles and he's running on.
Ontario's Special Investigations Unit that looks into cases where police are involved in serious injuries or deaths is not investigating this incident. Toronto police say paramedics were on scene and assessed both the police officer and the suspect and said neither had serious injuries.
The arrest was in response to reports over the weekend of a woman with 2 large knives damaging vehicles, including slashing the tires of several police cars. In a statement, police said during this response, the officer's vehicle inadvertently rolled forward into both the suspect and one of the arresting officers.
And what you notice is
this public safety consultant says the officer made a mistake in a chaotic situation.
And little things that we take for granted, you put the car in park before the accident. I've seen pedestrians or citizens do that in the past, but here the officer was probably multitasking at best, and that's one thing he forgot to do.
Police say they're still reviewing the circumstances around what happened and are grateful no one was seriously hurt. Lisa Shing, CBC News, Toronto.
There's another shocking video to show you tonight after an Ontario judge lifted a publication ban. It's a bit hard to watch, but it sheds new light on the kidnapping of a self-proclaimed crypto king. Angelina King shows us an alleged fraudster being tormented after clients lost a lot of money.
This video played in a Toronto courtroom shows Ontario's self-proclaimed crypto king on the ground, distraught.
Please, I'm begging you! I'm begging you! Please, no, slide! I'm begging Oh my God!
A kidnapper firing a gun demands that Aiden Pleterski divulge where he keeps his money. Darren Akiampong, the shooter, would later plead guilty to 9 charges, including kidnapping and assault. Over the course of 3 days in 2022, Pleterski was tortured at various locations in southern Ontario, according to an agreed statement of facts in the kidnapping case. He was waterboarded, beaten, and burned. Pleterski is accused of defrauding investors out of more than $40 million. Authorities allege that instead of putting their money into cryptocurrency and foreign exchange, Pleterski spent much of it on himself, buying luxury cars, renting a lakefront mansion, traveling on a private jet. He's since been charged with fraud. That same statement of facts says the kidnapping was orchestrated by an investor, Akil Haywood, who lost $300,000 to Pleterski. Court heard it all started with a meeting at a luxury Toronto hotel, captured on surveillance cameras. Pleterski thought Akiampong was a new investor, but it was all a setup. 3 days later, he was kidnapped.
I'm sorry. I really am.
Court heard Pleterski was forced to confess and apologize to investors.
Where is it all?
In that first video, Pleterski tells the kidnappers his landlord has the money, though that wasn't true according to the agreed facts. He was brought back to the hotel with orders to get the money, but that never happened.
Haywood and another man are expected to stand trial on kidnapping charges in about a year from now. Haywood has previously told CBC he's innocent. The trial for a third man is scheduled for January. Angelina King, CBC News, Toronto.
In the UK, praise for the crew of a commuter train who jumped into action during a terrifying stabbing rampage on Saturday.
On Saturday, he went to work to do his job. Today, he is a hero and forever will be.
The worker who confronted the attacker remains in critical but stable condition. He is one of 5 victims still in hospital. Today, the suspect appeared in court charged with 11 counts of attempted murder. Police are also investigating whether he is linked to 3 other recent incidents, including the stabbing of a 14-year-old hours before. Well, a CBC News investigation has uncovered complaints from Cuban citizens who worked at well-paid jobs in Canada. Even so, they said they could barely get by. They allege that the Cuban government confiscated most of their take-home pay. Here's Evan Dyer with a Canadian exclusive.
CBC News has agreed to hide this man's identity to protect his family from reprisals in Cuba. He's a professional who worked in Alberta for a joint venture between Cuba's state mining company and a private Canadian company, Sheeran International. On paper, he was paid close to $100,000 annual salary, but the pay slips don't tell the whole story.
As soon as you arrive, you realize that this is a naked abuse. You work like any Canadian here, but you only get a miserable salary.
He says the former Cuban CEO of the Sheeran refinery in Fort Saskatchewan, Alberta, told him that Cuban workers had to wire transfer between 80 and 90% of their net pay to the Cuban government.
We bought most of our food at Dollarama, which had the lowest prices, and for everything else, garage sales.
Some turned to food banks, he said. The confiscation of wages is normal for Cubans working abroad, says this researcher.
These people are not used to thinking, I have the right to take a vacation. I have the right to take my family to the movies. No, they're thinking survival.
But Sheeran's Cuban workers knew they were being exploited.
100% of the Cubans are unhappy about this, but it's not something you would talk about lightly or discuss in public, because the embassy is going to find out.
We're not supposed to form relationships with the Canadians we work with 8 hours a day.
You have an intermediary that is confiscating the salary, hiring you out to another bidder.
Werlaw says the Cuban government is engaged in human trafficking.
The Cuban supervisor has the prerogative to send any member back at any point and to discipline them.
Sheeran International, the Canadian half of the joint venture, said it had no knowledge of any wage confiscation scheme. The Cuban workers said Sheeran paid them their wages in full. It was their Cuban supervisors who then forced them to hand over most of the money. The Cuban government didn't respond to CBC's questions. The Canadian government said it has improved its systems generally for dealing with such abuses, but didn't respond to questions about whether it would intervene in this Cuban joint venture. Evan Dyer, CBC News, Ottawa.
At least 20 people are dead and hundreds injured after a powerful earthquake rattled northern Afghanistan. Those are rescuers pulling a young child out of the rubble after a 6.3 magnitude quake struck one of Afghanistan's most populous cities, destroying hundreds of homes and part of this historic Blue Mosque. Back in August, a similar quake killed more than 2,200 people. Voters in New York City are electing a new mayor tomorrow in a race that has grabbed international attention.
1 in 4 New Yorkers are living in poverty. That's what we have normalized here in this city. It's unacceptable.
How Zohran Mamdani is shaking up politics as usual next. Plus, some Alberta grain bins get a makeover.
It's a good opportunity to get extra income.
How farmers are diversifying for the next generation. And a university lecturer fit for the shape of his students. The biochemistry prof with pop star flair. We are back into it.
We have a lot of Montrealers on the streets, and that has to be our priority number one.
Montreal's mayor-elect says tackling homelessness is at the top of her agenda. But first, Soraya Martinez Ferrada wants to try to resolve an ongoing transit strike. She met with Montrealers this morning, a day after winning the election. The former federal cabinet minister and Chilean refugee is the city's first Latino mayor. Well, south of the border, New York's mayoral race is in its final stretch. Voters head to the polls tomorrow in an election that has captured attention internationally for its surprise frontrunner, a Democratic socialist. Chris Reyes looks at Zohran Mamdani's big promises and the pushback, including from the president.
Election day looms, my friends.
He's become the unlikely frontrunner to lead the biggest city in the U.S.
I say mayor.
Young, Muslim, and a Democratic socialist. Zohran Mamdani's meteoric rise launched when he won the Democratic nomination for mayor of New York City with a surprise victory against established favorite, former governor Andrew Cuomo.
We need to clean up the city.
Cuomo is now running as an independent.
You are responsible for 8.5 million lives. And he just does not have any credential whatsoever.
Mamdani's popularity in capitalist center New York has caught many off guard. His long list of promises include rent freezes, free buses, and government-run grocery stores.
There's a revolt of some kind going on, and when you have that kind of revolt and the demographic shift at the same time, you come up with something new, and that something new may very well be Zohran Mamdani.
Whether Mamdani's success can be replicated beyond New York is a hotly debated issue for his own party. struggling to find a united battle cry against President Donald Trump. Progressives like Bernie Sanders and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez were quick to endorse him. But other Democrats have held back. At the same time, Trump has made Mamdani a target, threatening to withhold billions of federal funding for the city.
He's the
communist, not socialist, communist. I'm not a fan of Cuomo one way or the other, but if it's going to be between a bad Democrat and a communist, I'm going to pick the bad Democrat all the time, to be honest with you.
Mamdani says there's a reason why his policies are resonating.
And 1 in 4 New Yorkers are living in poverty. That's what we have normalized here in this city. It's unacceptable.
The Cuomo-Mamdani matchup has fired up New Yorkers. Already more than 700,000 have voted early, a record number. Chris Reyes, CBC News, New York.
A Bloc Québécois candidate who lost her riding by a single vote in April's federal election says she is appealing to the Supreme Court of Canada seeking a new election. Nathalie Sinclair Desgagnés lost the Montreal area riding of Terrebonne to the Liberals, but it was later revealed a Bloc voter's special ballot wasn't counted because of an address error made by Elections Canada. Sinclair Desgagnés took the matter to the Quebec Superior Court, but it rejected her request for a new election last week. Some Alberta farmers are looking to diversify by giving tourists a taste of life on the farm.
More and more, you can't be just a rancher, so you're always looking for ways to branch out.
Grain bins get new life as hotel rooms. Plus, it may be decades since he left office, but Jean Chrétien is still very much plugged in.
Do you think Donald Trump is a threat to democracy?
He is.
Obviously, still thinking about politics, but also about the small city so close to his heart.
I started here and I will finish here.
The host of CBC Radio's The House, Catherine Cullen, sits down with the former Prime Minister in Shawinigan. The National breaks down stories shaping our world. Next.
Well, my motto is, ladies, if you want revenge, direct your ex-husband.
Tonight, movie fans are remembering Diane Ladd, a 3-time Oscar nominee who is also famous for her family. Daughter Laura Dern, her co-star in Wild at Heart, and ex-husband Bruce Dern, whom she praised as an actor, if not as a spouse. Laura Dern announced her mother's death at the age of 89, calling her my amazing hero and my profound gift of a mother. Well, some Alberta cattle farmers are looking for new revenue streams by turning old grain bins into guest houses, offering visitors a glimpse of Canada's prairie life. But as Kyle Bax tells us, agritourism might also be the bridge between family ranchers and the next generation.
After storing grain for decades, these 2-story metal bins now house guests from around the world who want a taste of farm life on the Canadian prairies.
I grew up on a grain farm, so always loved the idea of granaries.
The trio of grain bins were booked solid all summer long on land where 300 cattle graze.
We've diversified our ranch, and it's a good opportunity to get extra income that way too.
It's also aimed at keeping this land in the family. Succession planning is one of the most pressing issues in agriculture. Agritourism is one way to bridge a generational gap, enticing the children of farmers to stay in farming.
More and more, you can't be just a rancher, so you're always looking for ways to branch out. While the goal and the dream is to ranch, but it doesn't always work that way.
About $300 billion worth of farmland will change hands over the next decade, experts say, as the average age of farmers nears 60 years old. But some farms can be too big or too small to easily pass on, and some farmers want to keep farming forever.
It's a type of industry where you may have worked your entire life with, so your own identity is really enmeshed with the work that you're doing, and you like doing the work.
For Brianna Morrison, her kids are young, but she's already thinking decades ahead. She just opened for business this summer with 5 converted grain bins on the land her family has farmed for 3 generations.
They might have more ideas for this place and want to continue it and make it their own too and grow on it, and I hope that can come with the legacy of this ranch too.
For now, she's focusing on marketing and hospitality to keep welcoming guests to the ranch while still looking after the animals. Kyle Bax, CBC News, near Pincher Creek, Alberta.
Now it's time to dig deeper into the stories shaping our world. In his decade as Prime Minister, Jean Chrétien worked with many world leaders.
Bill Clinton loved to argue, wants to convince you, takes a long time. George was very different.
At the age of 91, the little guy from Shawinigan does not hold back about the leaders of today.
Do you think Donald Trump is a threat to democracy?
He is. He is. Because he does not care much about the rule of law.
Catherine Cullen, host of CBC Radio's The House, traveled to Shawinigan, Quebec to ask the former PM about the current state of Canada-U.S. relations and his lifelong attachment to his hometown.
But it's not a simple situation. You have to read the history of all of that that I've done.
In his 91 years, Jean Chrétien hasn't just read history, he's lived it, helped shape it.
We can develop a fantastic society for every Canadian.
I will try to bring us together by appealing not to what divides us, but what unites us. But if it must come to war, I argue that the world should respond through the United Nations.
Some of that history on display at the Jean Chrétien Museum in his hometown of Shawinigan, Quebec.
But it's a gift that George W. gave to me.
Yeah. What do you remember about getting that baseball bat
I
from
laugh
George W.
because,
Bush?
you know, the problem with him, very different than Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton loved to argue, wants to convince you, takes a long time. George was very different. He will have a position, he will express it, you have a disagreement, we'll rapidly agree to disagree and start to talk baseball and talk football.
Beyond occasionally surprising visitors by introducing himself.
Bonjour. Mon nom est Chrétien.
More than 2 decades after leaving politics, Chrétien is finding lots of ways to keep busy. I thought this was remarkable. You were in Ukraine in August. Why? Why did you decide?
Because I wanted to go to Ukraine. I'm curious.
Yeah.
I was impressed by the resilience they have. It's extremely difficult for them, but they're still fighting.
You mentioned, you knew Putin. Are you surprised that he went this far?
Yes, but it was coming. This I realize now.
He still has a lot of opinions to share too, particularly on the United States and Donald Trump.
We're living through a period of enormous change. We don't know what will be the result of it. Suddenly the Americans are going down like 1918. Complete protection is closing the border.
You said during the first Trump administration that when it comes to free trade, you can't reverse an omelet. But we see this second Trump administration is acting with an intensity that is unlike the first one. Do you think free trade with the United States is in jeopardy?
In reality, we never had a real free trade agreement. They signed it, but they were not respecting it during my time. We'll go to arbitration, we'll win. And they would say, so what? So always to renegotiate. It was always, very often, a negotiated trade deal we had on a daily basis. When it was suiting them, they would use the free trade treaty to justify their move. But when it was an embarrassment for them, they didn't pay attention to it.
It was pretty different than taking on the whole world the way they are now.
But, they will have to live with the reality. We need them, and they need us very much.
One of the first issues on Chrétien's desk in 1993 when he became prime minister was ratifying NAFTA. He didn't get some of the changes he wanted, but there was an agreement Canada wouldn't be forced to make large-scale exports of water.
And I'm very proud that I excluded from the treaty water that was in the treaty before. That will become, in the next generation, extremely important because we have 20% of the fresh water in the world. It's a hell of an asset.
Does Donald Trump want our water?
He wants it. Of course he wants it. He wants everything that is good in Canada. It's ambition is one thing, but it's not available free. You will have to negotiate. It is in our interest to have good relations with the American, and it is in their interest to have good interest with us.
I would like to understand, you dealt with so many world leaders over the years. There is something unique about what Donald Trump is doing right now. He says he hates his enemies. He is relying on executive power to get a lot of things done. Immigration raids where people are being handcuffed in the streets. Do you think Donald Trump is a threat to democracy?
He is. He is. Because he does not care much about the rule of law. And the Western society is built on the rule of law. When there is no more rule of law, it's blackmail on a daily basis, and it's not working. You will not be there forever. And there will be a price to pay for that. I don't know what will be the result. It could cause a lot of problems south of the border. This seems to run away from values that made the United States these days.
So does it bother you then to see world leaders? I mean, world leaders are generally, they flatter him, they appeal to him. Prime Minister Carney calls him a transformational president. You say he's a threat to democracy.
Yeah, but it's not a good transformation.
Yeah. But should world leaders be more vocal about the threat he poses?
But the problem is we have to fight for our values that are well known. So we are a trading nation by nature. We produce minerals, we have wood, we have to sell it, we cannot use it all in Canada. We have electricity, we have energy more than anybody else. So it's an asset that we should use, but we should sell too. So, it's complicated, and the world will be different, and we'll have to adjust. But if you ask me if I'm very pessimistic, I said no. I've been around. I was the president of the Young Liberal in 1956 at Laval University. You were not very old. And, so I've seen a lot of periods. Sometimes we were more or less discouraged. We thought it was terrible. We had violence, we had terrorism in Europe, and murder all the time, and so on. We look back and we went through it. So today we face, as I had to face all my life, a wall that I thought the hell will get over or around it or underneath it. But at the end of the day, we managed to do it. So I think we'll manage again.
As he managed in politics, he had a confidant. Part of this museum is dedicated to Jean Chrétien, his wife of 6 decades. She died in 2020.
What is it like for you to come here?
They've done a good job. And, I would not have been prime minister if she had not been my companion.
Why is that?
She was 16 and I was 18. And when I started to get involved in politics, she was always around and applauding, commenting very privately, and telling me the truth, the real truth. It was extremely useful.
He says she kept him connected to the people of Shawinigan, and that on tough issues, his staff would try to get her to change his mind.
The last appeal was to go to Aline. He said, it's the last chance we have.
And did it work sometimes?
Sometimes. So this tower has become the symbol of Shawinigan.
The tower as the symbol of Shawinigan? Maybe. Or is it Chrétien himself? Nicknamed the little guy from Shawinigan, his political legacy defined in part by his fight to keep Canada together in the 1995 referendum.
Le nom vient de prendre d'avance, vous avez remarqué?
3 decades later, the conversation about national unity has shifted, his views still firm.
This trade war is causing tensions within the country, different provinces.
On the contrary, it's united Canada more than ever.
Even when you see BC saying softwood lumber isn't necessarily getting the attention that autos is.
Madame, it's been always like that. Blaming the federal government, the tension between areas, it's always been like that. Never changed.
it's not only Quebec now. There's an Alberta separatist movement, too.
Yeah, but they should all read the Clarity Act.
That's the law he passed saying any province wanting to separate needs a clear majority and a clear question, intended to deal with Quebec.
Do you want to separate from Canada? When you have a poll with these words, it's clear they don't want that. But if you tell them we can have a better deal, everybody wants to have a better deal. You know.
But what's happening in Alberta right now?
But Alberta is a landlocked country. Look at the Premier. Now she wants the federal government to intervene in BC to help Alberta. But don't do anything in Alberta to help the rest of Canada. Oh, no. Come on, you cannot double talk all the time like that. And it's a landlocked country, province. How can they build a pipeline? They will have to go in the north through Canada, to the east through Canada, to the west through Canada. And I wish them good luck to have oil pipeline in the state of Washington to go to the Pacific.
Do you think there's a new pipeline? Not just that one. There's also, Mark Carney revived the idea of Keystone XL. Do you think there's a new pipeline in Canada's future?
It is an economic thing. Apparently, there is nobody who wants to do it by the private sector. So the bad feds will have to pay for it. You know, the market forces exist. And there is. You know, they never sold as much oil as they do today. And they're complaining as if they were bankrupt. Come on.
Talk like that is unlikely to go over well in parts of Alberta. But here in Shawinigan, Chrétien is adored. We love him very much. He's done a lot for the city, she says.
He's like a father to everybody, you know. He's always there, and if you want to talk to him, he's always going to wait, and he's always going to be there. Until he dies, he's going to take good care of Shawinigan.
Bonjour, madame. Comment ça va? Merci de nous recevoir avec les gens de CBC. At least 10 years I'm working with them.
He's helped set up several social services here, including this palliative care home. The Maison Jean Chrétien is open to all for free to be supported and cared for in their last days. Chrétien is deeply proud of it.
You know, those who contributed.
He's like a part of the team because he's always very gentle, very polite, and we are always happy to receive him.
Recently, Shawinigan had a celebration for him, a thank you for all the ways he's shaped history and helped shape Shawinigan itself.
You know, it's a small town, but it's my town.
In your head, it's still home?
Oh, it's my home. I started here and I will finish here.
So, Catherine, this is extraordinary. He's extraordinary, 91 years old. What's your sense of how he's doing?
I mean, he's still pretty fiery, Adrian. You know, he had a heart stent put in May, but you saw he still had a lot of energy for our interview, the tour of the museum. Last month, he did a debate with former Prime Minister Stephen Harper about Canadian unity in a fractured world. He's even visiting a country at war like Ukraine because, as you heard him say, because he wanted to go.
So pretty interesting to see him talk not just about politics, but to get personal about his late wife.
Yeah, he told us he misses Aline very much, and that's clear. It's been 5 years since she passed, and he still wears his wedding ring. But there were other interesting glimpses, too. I asked him what would happen if we put him in a room with Donald Trump. He said, wouldn't look forward to that. He's never been particularly, in his view, into flattery. Then he said, humor is the best way to tell the truth. Cold, hard truth, difficult to swallow. Chrétien says the sugar of humor helps get that across.
He's always been good at that. Thank you for this. That's Catherine Cullen in Ottawa. Coming up, researchers pieced together what caused a rare tsunami in a BC interior lake.
The more events we can reconstruct and understand why they happened, the more we can actually get to a larger hazard model.
How learning from the past could save lives in the future. Next. Tsunamis, potentially deadly waves often found in the wake of earthquakes, an ever-present risk for Canada's coastal residents.
But maybe the strangest tsunami of all is the lake tsunami.
Nearly 20 years ago, a massive landslide crashed into BC's Chehalis Lake, sending a surge of water 38 meters up the shore. Senior meteorologist Johanna Wagstaff explains how scientists were able to reconstruct the event and what it could tell us about the next lake tsunami.
You've heard of tsunamis triggered by earthquakes, underwater volcanoes, even meteors. But maybe the strangest tsunami of all is the lake tsunami. They're real, and they've happened right here in BC, right here at this lake. This is one of the most well-documented cases in the world, Chehalis Lake. Back in 2007, a massive landslide crashed into this lake just west of Harrison. About 3 million cubic meters of rock and debris from Mount Orrock fell more than half a kilometer straight down. When that mass hit the 175-meter deep water, it displaced so much energy that a wave shot 38 meters up the opposite shore. That's roughly equal to a 12-story building. Then that wave raced down the full 8-kilometer length of this lake, still reaching 7 meters high on the far end. Luckily, no one was here that day. But if it had happened in July instead of December, when this area is usually full of campers, it could have been devastating. So how do scientists know all of this if no one saw it happen? First, this landscape told them. Those trees stripped bare dozens of meters above the waterline. Then the tech, high-resolution topographic data, aerial imagery, and sonar scans of the lake bottom. Together, they painted the picture of the landslide and the waves it unleashed. The trigger for all of this? Heavy rain on snow. It saturated this already fractured bedrock, reducing stability until the whole slope failed. And when it did, it disintegrated into a debris avalanche, slamming into the lake at 60 meters per second. That's where the models come in. Scientists simulated the impact and wave formation, and the results matched almost exactly with what they found on the ground. That validation means we can now use the same tools to identify other risky lakes, ones with steep slopes, deep water, unstable geology, lakes like Salmon Arm, or even Harrison.
If we want to really fully understand these events more, we need to look at reconstructing past events. One way to do this is using kind of the landslide deposits themselves and the features in the lake. And we're working towards a different type of method, which uses actually the sediment on the bottom of the lake, which is a really good archive of thousands of years of earthquakes, climatic shifts, and events like lake tsunamis. Chehalis Lake is our modern example to do that, to understand actually what impact those events have. The more events we can reconstruct and understand why they happened, the more we can actually get to a larger hazard model that could fit in to the existing hazard models that BC has.
Events like this aren't common, but they are a part of BC's landscape story. And as climate change makes slopes wetter and less stable, what happened here at Chehalis might not stay a one-off.
Now, Chehalis Lake was definitely not a one-off. Just 5 years ago, a landslide at BC's Elliott Lake triggered a tsunami more than 100 meters tall. It uprooted trees, soil, and rock and destroyed some important salmon habitat downstream. Now, coming up, how a professor got pretty creative to elevate his chemistry lesson.
When your glycogen is all through, and you need your proteins too.
His lecture with an Ed Sheeran twist in our moment. This is Derek McLaughlin, a biochemistry professor at Western University, performing his version of Ed Sheeran's song Shape of You to his students. Why? Well, McLaughlin turned the song into a chemistry lesson with the hopes to resonate more with the students, and tonight his musical lecture of sorts is our moment.
When your glycogen is all through, and you need your proteins too.
You're always looking for ways to connect with students. I think most people can relate to, in some way, to music. Students get a little excited about anything out of the ordinary. Sometimes students will tell me, they were singing a song during the test or, in their head. The song was written actually quite a few years ago, shortly after the Ed Sheeran song came out. I sort of realized that, oh, I could adapt those to be used to get across some information that I'm trying to teach. Trying to preserve the spirit of the song while, giving the science lyrics. I have a few others. I did a cover of the Rosé and Bruno Mars song, APT, and that was about ATP, which is another important biological molecule. I'd like to see that people are enjoying something you've done.
He has some playlist here. Along with another professor, they did a duet to Sweet Caroline. I know you know the song, I'm not going to hum it, called Sweet Collagen, which is a protein he was teaching his class about. Good on him. From all of us at The National, thank you for being with us. I'm Adrienne Arsenault. Take care.